Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Truth, lies, shenanigans. 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 It's the TLS show, coming to you live from the TLS show. It's the TLS show, coming to you live from the TLS show.
Hey, welcome to Truth, Lies, Shenanigans podcast. Social commentary, hot topics, and amazing guests with a ton of fun and shenanigans along the way. Today, we are talking about a white woman in Alaska showing her white privilege card instead of her license, and instead of a ticket, she gets a selfie with the officer. Rabi wants to talk about the dark side of horse racing. And Dr. J. Dr. J is back guest hosting with us. She wants to talk about Major League Baseball minor leaguers getting a win. And she'll also give us some pet tips for the summer. Before we get into the show, let me introduce you to these two fantastic co-hosts. First up, our gamer, tech guru, and rock star with the rock band Fallen Machine, coming to you from Sudbury, Ontario, Mr. Robbie Rock.
Thank you. Happy Sunday fun day, everyone. It has been a beautiful week here. The summer weather is in full effect. We've been enjoying the water, blueberry picking, the usual stuff. But wife and I did something crazy this weekend. We went out on a date in the real world.
What dates? That's awesome.
Yeah. So we really haven't been out in public since
COVID.
the pandemic. We really haven't done that. Yeah. So we went to an outdoor restaurant, and that evening, the live performance, the live musician was being provided by our friend Braden Henry. So he played 3 1-hour sets on their patio, and it was just amazing to take in some live music. And over the course of the evening, our friend Dustin Moore popped in and he joined us. It was just a really great night. It felt really wonderful to be out, and we kind of gauged our comfort level, kept our distance, masked up. But yeah, it was fun to test the waters.
I saw you posted Brendan,
Braden.
yeah, Braden Henry on TLSfans.com. So yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, check it out. One song that he performed, "I Lost My Girl," was the first song that I had heard from the studio, and it had been produced. And he just played a stripped down version live. But when he releases that single, it is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be something else.
Yeah, he's a good singer, really good singer. So it's good that you got out though. We've been going out. Me and my wife have been going out on dates for a while now, but we also caught COVID.
You've traveled.
So there's that. All right. And sitting in for the lovely Lizzie, we have our friend of the show, veterinarian, pet lover, and mother, streaming from a suburb of Washington, D.C., the one we lovingly call Dr. J, Dr. Robin Johnson.
Hello, everybody. Hello. It has been a hot one here in the DC area, and it was a full moon this week and felt every inch of that.
Yeah, it was a beautiful full moon, too.
Oh, yeah, very pretty. Not so much if you work in medicine, though.
Wait, so what do you say? The dogs and what you got, wolves and stuff coming? You got werewolves and stuff?
It just tends to get crazy. Just, anybody who works ER, human or animals, we all get worried about that full moon.
Full moon. Yeah. I can imagine. Is there anything behind that? I'm just out of curiosity.
They can't officially say, but it does seem just, everybody just has those anecdotals, like full moon's happening, and that means that you just are getting weird cases.
Weird. Okay.
But we get a little bit hyperactive. Think about what you're hardwired to do, what mammals are hardwired to do. Most of us are eat plants, and we also eat other animals. So if it's a full moon, you have the ability to hunt at night, which is very different. So at a primal level, I would imagine that it really awakens something in all mammals because we're not supposed to operate at night, but when the conditions are right to do it, something ain't right.
Maybe.
It's definitely not right. Definitely not right.
I'm sticking with this werewolves coming into your your clinic. All right.
Well, there'll be awfully cute ones, and I'll be ready for them.
Okay. All right.
Bring your
And
silver.
I'm of course Neo Nick. So this has been a crazy week for me actually. It's been really busy. In addition to working on setting up a new podcast network, I'm also working with one of our previous guests, author Tracy Mitchell, to start up her new podcast. And it's actually I think it's going to be fantastic. It's about you know women accomplishing greatness. So but it's been crazy with her. It's been tough to come up with a name to get her to settle on a name. So I've been working on it with a few weeks, uh, and she's still struggling on a name. Um, she of course had that book, Stirring the Pot, but there,
Mhm.
but there are like 10, 20 other podcasts with the name Stirring the Pot. So we had to come up with something else. And every time she settles on something, somebody says something that changes her mind. So it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge.
Tell her to call Henry. She values his opinion.
Say who?
Henry Winkler.
Henry
Tell her to
Winkler. Oh,
call
that's
Henry
right.
Winkler.
Yeah, that's right. Henry Winkler. Give him a call, right? All right. All right. But I'm going to try to have her guest host on the show sometime before our season ends in September. So we'll have her back and she can talk more about her podcast then. All
Amazing.
right. Let's go and get into our show. We've got a new segment this week. We're blessed with amazing veterinarian. I thought it'd be good to have her give you some tips for your pet's summer care. So this is our segment, Dr. J's Pet Tips.
Hello, everybody. So it is finally summer, and as folks have said, we are outside, and people are definitely being outside, and that includes our four-legged friends and two-legged friends. There's a lot of things that people don't always necessarily think about when it's hot outside, but we're going to go down a couple of things. The first one is that a lot of people are traveling, and with that, pets are either traveling with them or they're going to boarding facilities. So the boarding facilities are filling up this summer. The biggest thing to do would be number one, making sure your pet is up to date on all vaccinations. Rabies, distemper if you have a dog, um, FELV or feline distemper if you have a cat. For dogs, you want to do your kennel cough vaccine. You want to possibly do canine influenza, particularly if they're being boarded, because you have a whole bunch of pets in a new area, and they can catch some things. If you are traveling with your pet, then you're going to want to follow the guidelines of wherever you're going. If you're doing international travel, then your pet most likely is going to need an international travel certificate. And depending on where you're going, have requirements for vaccines, for deworming, and also sometimes for testing. So you want to make sure way in advance that you have met all those requirements so that you can safely travel with your pet and also return back into the country. So that's the biggest thing that you want to do. But if you are hanging around at home with your pet, there's a lot of fun things that you can do. You want to definitely make sure that in the heat of the summer, your pet is staying cool and hydrated. One thing that you don't want to do is shave their fur. Their fur acts as insulation and it helps them regulate their temperature. So shaving their fur for the summer
Oh
actually
man.
makes it harder for them.
Mm.
Now that you mention it, I mean, my dog's like, I take him to the dog park. I take him to the dog park like every day. Well, almost every day. I can't say every day, but I take him to the dog park regularly. And they used to be running around, going crazy and playing with the other dogs. And now it's just like they don't want to run. They don't want, it gets hot so quick. And I mean, they just
Mhm.
stay around the water fountain.
Yeah. So you definitely want to know, that if it is hot outside to you, it is hot out there to them. Another thing, particularly for their little pads, they're very sensitive. Those
Yeah.
pads are extremely sensitive. It's how they regulate their temperature. It's how they tell their temperature often. So one rule of thumb is to put it on the pavement. If you can't keep your hand there for longer than a minute, your pet does not need to be on that pavement. That can burn their little paws.
And,
And that's really,
I had all the way to the dog park, it's asphalt. So I actually stopped walking them because it was just so hot.
hmm
So I just drive them there and then let them run around the dog park there.
hmm
So
Yep, it's really important. Like short walks, if you have like a lot of grassy area, then you can get away with a little bit
yeah.
more because the grass is cooler, but you want to really limit that time. And then the last big part is recognizing signs of heat exhaustion, panting heavily, trying, not as active in the activity. Um, heat exhaustion is really can be deadly for pets. So you don't want to leave them outside for long periods of time. If you have those short what we call brachiocephalic dogs, so those little pugs, those little short-nosed Frenchies and all, they cannot tolerate this heat. Being
Really?
outside for even 10 minutes can be too long and deadly for them. So
Really?
um, keeping them inside and cool, taking your walks early in the morning and then late at night when it's cooler will be much easier for them. The downside of that is also that's when mosquitoes are most active, so you want to make sure they're up to date with their heartworm prevention. But those are kind of the tips for keeping your pet safe in the summer.
Awesome. So in pre-show you mentioned something about dogs and putting their heads out the
Yes.
window. So
so
my dogs do that all the time. What's the problem with that?
Like our little dog on our graphic, he had on his little doggles and all, which kind of compensates for sticking his head out the window. But cars kick up dirt, rocks, things like that. You think about what your windshield can go through and how you get cracks, and those things can pop up in the dog's face and in their eyes.
Mm,
So you
I hadn't even
definitely
thought
want to
about
be
that.
yeah, you definitely want to be careful with their head out the window or with them in the back of a pickup truck loose because they can jump out. Sudden stops can throw the pet out of the car or out of the back of the
And
pickup truck. So, I definitely kind of cringe when I see the dogs out the window. I'm like, oh, put your head back in, put your head back in. Just
Oh.
because we don't want to see, eye damage. We don't want to know things popping up, cutting them in the face, things.
I'm curious, have you seen like in the emergency room, have you seen that where dogs have been hit in the face and
Yeah,
or
yeah, you definitely can see that. I mean, do I see it a lot? I mean, it's not necessarily the top thing, but I
okay.
have seen it, and definitely considering like what my windshield goes through on the Beltway,
Mm,
I definitely do not want my little ones. And luckily, I have tiny ones, so they really can't even get their heads out the window. Um, so, they can't do that, but it definitely is a risk, and dogs have been doing it, but when that happens to your dog, you don't care anymore.
yeah.
So, and also definitely if they're in the car or in the back of the truck, having them properly secured. I have seen, dogs coming in after being in accidents and having injuries, they're being thrown around the car or something, or thrown out of the car. So you want them properly secured.
So I have a
So
question
I,
for that.
I, I also
Sorry,
have a
Brian.
question.
Go
Just
ahead.
as we're talking about heat, I know that year over year, it just seems to be a failed message as far as, don't keep your animals in a hot car. Now, as a veterinarian, is that something that you have to deal with fairly regularly? Is there messaging that you and your peers try to get out year over year, and what can they do better?
I mean, definitely, we talk about if it's too hot for you, it's too hot for them. And the inside of a car reaches, even in the shade, can reach over 100 degrees rather quickly. And so heat exhaustion is definitely something that we seriously see. It's when we start hitting those dog days of summer around thing, we start saying, okay, we got to be ready for those, cooling activities because these dogs are going to come in crisis, and cats too. They can come in crisis, and It's really hard to, deal with a grieving family and have them lose their pet for something that really could have been so easily prevented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about securing your pets previously.
Mhm.
So, what's the proper way to secure your pet? Because I have a, I purchased I don't know, it's like a strap that you connect to their collar. But that
Mhm.
feels like that's even though that's secure from keeping them from moving around. But if I were in an accident, it feels like it could snap their neck. I mean,
So a lot of times you may want to like instead of attaching it to like a collar, you want to use a harness instead
harness.
so that you have the distribution of the weight. So it's not in that pinpoint area, it's more of the whole chest. But definitely like the doggy seat belts, which kind of like the strap clicks. If the animal is small enough or if your car is big enough, a proper cage or carry a doggy or pet carrier would be the things that are most safe. And also too because they don't mean to, but they can get in the way for you jumping from the front to the back
That's
and
true.
trying to get in
Mhm.
your lap and
Hmm.
or trying to see some other dog and trying to get out the window at that
Hmm.
one. So
Yeah.
keeping them safe is really going to be much better for everybody, including you.
Okay.
Absolutely. I remember having two big dogs and driving my Jeep. And, a couple of times I've had to brake harder than others, or if I'm just doing a little bit of off roading and all of a sudden I've got a curious, affectionate 80-pound animal that's from the back seat into my console in half a second and kind of going, oh, damn, get out
Yeah.
of the way, dog.
Hmm.
I got to drive.
Mhm.
I got to drive.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also, I guess one other pet tip is definitely making sure your pet has their collars and tags with identification. There's also a thing called a microchip, what we call the internal tag. It's a little tiny chip that is injected in most vets and animal control and shelters have a scanner, and the number will come up, and they can contact the company to get you reunited with your pet. So that's another big tip.
So, Rob,
Awesome.
I have a story too because it's an older story. I had a but actually you remember Ebony,
Hmm.
Dr. J. Um, so she because Dr. J used to take care of Ebony, but sh it was when she was a puppy and she was little, and so she was riding in the back. Oh no, actually she was riding in the front seat, and of course I didn't have any harness, and they really didn't talk about doing harnesses. This was years ago, um, and stuff like that. And so I had her sit in the front seat, and then somehow she pressed the button, and the window came all the way down. And it was right in the time when I was going into a turn, and she tumbled out the window.
Oh
Oh,
no!
snap.
Yeah, I was like devastated. I was like, I just stopped in the middle of the street. I was like, I thought I was the worst dog parent ever. It was like I was like, I was messed up. I was like, but I mean, surprisingly, she seemed to be okay. Because I guess she was a puppy, so she probably didn't know what was going on and stuff.
I caught her on the first bounce.
But right.
Pretty much.
But that's a
They
good
are,
example of what you're talking about. I mean,
yeah.
it was scary. I gotta admit, I thought she might have been dead. I was didn't know her. I was done.
Yeah, I mean, definitely with if it had been really a lot of traffic, the other cars wouldn't
Could
have
have
been
run
able to
over.
stop. Definitely, yeah. It's we especially working ER, I see it all.
Yeah.
And so I definitely want to keep them safe.
Kept that story to myself. I didn't tell you that story back in the day because I felt so bad. All right, well, thanks for the bad tips. All right. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into some of these topics we got. We got some pretty deep topics today. So why don't you start us off?
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
You got the dark side of horse racing.
Oh, I do. I do. So I'm sad to report that another horse has been killed after it was injured in a chuck wagon race at the Calgary Stampede. The injury resulted due to a collision on the track with another wagon. But what is chuck wagon racing, you might ask? So, as you can see from the image, one rider commands the chuck wagon, and then there are 2 to 4 other riders known as outriders, each riding a thoroughbred following the chuck wagon, acting as support crew. Well, this harkens to a time when you had to break camp and get out in a moment's notice. Those days are a little bit behind us. But for each race, there's a maximum of up to 4 teams on the track. And a race starts with a procedure called breaking the camp, where the outriders, the support riders, throw a stove onto the wagon. And if there's up to 4 riders, then they throw the camp poles on. Semantics. But after that, then the chuck wagon and the riders have to do a figure-8 pattern and hit the track around 2 barrels. And then the first across the line with the least amount of time penalties wins. So the Vancouver Humane Society has actually recorded more than 70 horse deaths in the Stampede chuck wagon races over the last couple of decades.
How
Now,
many? 70?
over 70, yeah. So this can be as a result of fractured legs, broken backs, heart attacks. In 2012, 3 horses died in a crash after the lead suffered an aneurysm and pulled the others down with it when it collapsed. So, in fact, there have only been 5 Calgary Stampedes with an asterisk over the last 2 decades where the chuck wagon race did not result in a horse fatality. So that was 2003, 2004, 2016, and no fatalities in 2020 because it was canceled due to COVID. And in 2021, things were scaled back and there was no chuck wagon racing, so no fatalities then either. But 2019, 6 fatalities. So, is it time to retire a long-standing tradition of racing sentient animals for human entertainment?
I think we should start with Dr. J, our veterinarian.
I
Well,
know, right?
this is always a definitely a hard one because I think that you have two sides of the story here. One is definitely you want to provide the safest environment for these pets. Two, we got to remember that they are beasts of burdens, and some of them are doing what they love to do.
Mhm.
That this is, what they were trained to do and bred to do. It's always a hard time when a pet gets injured, um, but it is especially in horse racing because the solution for most of that is that you put them down, that there is not coming back from it. Um, I think that, if they, hopefully they're doing the studies to see, A, can they somehow make this safer? Because here's the other part of it for the human side. I mean, although on one hand it's for human entertainment, humans are raggedy. They don't tend to care about things unless they can feel emotionally attached to them.
Mm.
And so, it is something to say that, hey, this is what these animals do. They are beasts of burden. They, do work, and to showcase that work allows humans to see the beauty in an animal doing what it's bred to do at its best, but at the same time, it'll also let them see, hey, there is dangers to it, and that's the side that people don't like. They don't like the side that the animal gets hurt, but the reality is, oftentimes in doing its job for people and for animals, you can get hurt. The downside for a horse is that it often, ends in them having to be put down. So I think that, on one hand, if this cannot safely continue, then, stopping it for the horse's sake would be the best thing. But if they can find a way for it to safely continue, then it can be used, continue to use as education on how to treat a horse or what a horse goes through, to make people aware of the animal side.
Dang,
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I know
hold
that
up.
researchers at the University of Calgary are looking at ways of improving the health and safety and performance of the horses at the Stampede. So they're looking at surfaces that the horses run on, and just to see if that's a way to reduce leg fractures. So there is community involvement in trying to figure it to make things better. And I appreciate what you're saying that they are beasts of burden doing what they do. But when I see wild horses running out and running with their friends, yeah, they're going to run full out until they're done, and they don't have 120 pounds of human asshole riding on them either, driving them to go faster. And pulling a chuck wagon isn't a natural activity for a horse to do. So I guess that's where I struggle with it, is that this is the chuck wagon race has just been a long-standing tradition, and it's not necessarily a natural thing. You know, competitive pulling, I get it because they're strong horses, but just this full-out racing, neck and neck while you're hauling, it's proven to be dangerous and fatal year over year.
I mean, I have to. I would. Let me just jump in here real quick. I want to. I tend to agree with what Dr. J is saying. I mean, I understand these sports aren't necessarily the best thing, but I feel like if we instead focus on the safety of the horses as opposed to, the entertainment value, the horses are being bred. They're alive for the purpose of, you know, racing. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't even be bred. Um, but you know, my dog likes to pull. I have a Bernese Mountain Dog. My dog loves to pull, and that's something he loves to do. I've been trying to find a wagon for him to do it. They're like super expensive for some reason, but but you know, those are things that they love to do, and the horse may love racing, but I think the problem is focusing on, and the problem needs to be focused on treating the horses well. Making sure that if we're going to do this, if we're going to have them doing this activity, that it's safe for the horses, and that clearly it isn't currently. And
And
that's where the problem lies.
there are other safe activities for the horses that are entertaining, that are educational. There are other types of racing that they can engage in that is much safer. It's educational. And I mean, believe me, like chuck wagon racing, what we're talking about is the tip of the iceberg as far as horse deaths in horse racing. This is just a sliver of it. But it's yeah, I don't know. It seems like a very vain enterprise that we can be so aloof and callous about running these animals into the ground, literally.
Yeah, if that's what's
Yeah, I
happening,
mean,
that's the problem.
it's,
But
it's
not
definitely, I
necessarily
guess.
this race itself. Good. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think that definitely, I mean, dealing with horses that have raced and dealing with horse racing and knowing all of the thing. I mean, it's a hard thing, because one is I always think like the age that they start racing these horses is not ideal for the actual age for them to actually be racing, but it's sort of like humans with an athlete like that's when you are young in your prime, but you are not physiologically enough to truly be doing some of the hard work. So that's one of the big things is like, let's look at the age of these horses when you're running them. And then there are other things like warrers and a bunch of other diseases that horses can get with racing that cause a lot of problems. And I think that, it's a it's a hard ethical question, because on one hand, I mean, I know like, working when I was in vet school, we were near a racetrack, so we got a lot of those horses, and for various different things. And there is immense beauty in a horse running full out, and
Mm,
just that horse is absolutely gorgeous, doing what it's bred to do. But at the same time, it's so hard on the body, and you're like, you want to love them and hug them and spoil them and all, but they are beasts of burden. And the thing is that they are not treated like your dogs and your cats and your rabbits. They are treated as a like equipment. And it's
commodity.
kind of yeah, and it's kind of hard, because the person that that loves this horse isn't necessarily the person that owns this horse.
Mm,
And when it comes down to a lot of money, and that
that's the biggest
it
driver.
it
Yeah.
comes down like, are you going to really spend $20,000 on a surgery to fix a horse if the horse is only worth $15,000? No, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, on one hand, it's like you want to make them safe. The other hand is that people need to be aware of these things, and the only way to make them aware is to actually show them like this is what horses can do. So it's a double-edged sword.
Any last thoughts, Rob?
It's really the Stampede does keep bringing new safety measures in. I think in the image there were 4 chuck wagons that were racing, so now they're reducing the number of wagons on the track, and just with partnerships through the university, just trying to make things better. So I mean, I can applaud that. It's just the death toll seems to be unreasonably high for this event. So I'm my issue isn't with the horse racing or the horses doing what they're bred to do. It's with this specific event because the the death toll seems to be so much higher and seems to be so very difficult and taxing. I know watching Clydesdales come by pulling a great big wagon that's fully loaded, that's impressive shit because that's a massive animal doing what it's supposed to do. But it's not running full out while it's pulling it, and it's not pulling it against a pack of other Clydesdales. It's, just
It's
make
Yeah.
it safe for the animal.
Yeah.
yeah. I think the problem is the event. I mean, they need better rules. It sounds like. Yeah.
Mhm. Or just make it exhibition. Like, just,
Yes,
they did this, but not so full
send
out.
one team on the track, right? Exhibition. Send one team on the track and go, wow, okay. And then do a couple of heats and then post the times. All right,
Mhm.
just change the event, the
Yep.
format.
Yeah.
All right, I got a comments online. Oh, Jose, this makes me sad. These poor horses, and why do we have these events for entertainment? No thanks. I'd rather not see an animal die as an event.
No.
All right, is this true?
Truth, lies,
Lies
shenanigans.
or shenanigans?
It's a hard truth.
The hard truth. Yeah,
Truth.
I like
Mhm.
that, Dr. J.
Got
The
truth
hard
as
truth.
well. Definitely some truth to that. That was a good discussion. Thank you, Rob, for that topic. All right, I'm up next.
Truth, lies, shenanigans.
All right, my friends, I came across this ridiculous article of a woman in Anchorage, Alaska, who posted a picture of herself after a traffic stop by police. Now, in the picture, the woman is in the driver's seat holding up a white privilege card with an Alaska police officer smiling behind her in her window. In the now deleted post, Mimi Israela wrote, "White privilege card works as a driver's license!" Exclamation point. Always keep one in your wallet. At 3:43 a.m. Alaska time, I was driving towards Sicily's Pizza, starving and sleepy when I got pulled over by the police. Officer Bose said I was waving on the road. I told them that I just arrived from California to attend President Trump's rally this Saturday. I told him that I backed the blue. I showed him my Born to Ride for 45 vest with a back the blue patch. It was fun. As an SOP, standard operating procedure, he asked for my driver's license. I looked in my wallet but couldn't find it. And when I saw my white privilege card, I gave it to him, asked if it's okay. He laughed and called his partner, and said it's their first time to see a white privilege card. Apparently, she took the selfie and was let go. Supposedly, the police department is investigating. So, Dr. J, are you going to start carrying your white privilege card around?
It's gonna be really hard to try to pull that one off. But I guess the question really is like, hey, is this even true? Like, sometimes people post the internet. You can post anything. So one is like, did this? I mean,
And
I
I
don't
will.
doubt
I
that.
did double check. It's several sources are reporting it. Have it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that they did it, but like, was it really like in the essence of what she's saying, or was this all like, ha ha ha, look at this, like, let's pose about it? I mean, I am going to a Trump rally, and ha ha ha. That's the question. But yeah, ma'am, sit down.
Robbie.
All right. So, from a comedic standpoint, purely, a white privilege card being flashed by someone who clearly isn't Caucasian is ironic. So, by definition, it's funny in that context. But flexing, ride for 45, back to blue, going to a Trump rally, along with a white privilege card, removes the funny aspect of it. At that point, you're flexing. It's showing a bias. And I mean, she was hoping to solicit some kind of preferential treatment, which she received. So I don't
She
know if
did.
policing is that different in Alaska. It might be a little bit looser because let's face it, Alaska is a different place than mainland USA. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Enrique Tarrio of the Proud Boys, where it's just like, hey,
Right. Yeah, it was
go
Hispanic.
white people. But wait a minute, what's going on?
Yeah, he's
But yeah,
definitely got some melanin in him.
right. But that's it. I mean, if you don't have the proper documentation and you're swerving on the road, uh, flashing a funny little piece of paper shouldn't get you off, man. Like there's something that needs to be dealt with. So I don't know. It was very
Well,
gauche
didn't you
and
say
crass at the very least.
did you say it happened like at 3 a.m.? It's clearly light there. I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's what
guess
she
they
said.
do have
Oh,
lights
because it's
on.
Alaska though. Yeah, longer days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But so I'll say, we all know that race has no basis in genetics or DNA, even geographical heredity. Shoot, there's white people in Africa born to black parents. So race is solely based on physical appearance and commonalities. And I just want to point out this woman in this picture right here. She's definitely got some melanin in her skin. I might be, I might be lighter than she is. And if you look at that nose, that's not a typical, quote unquote white nose. So she's definitely passing for something. Because I don't know, just saying, she looks a little more ethnic than she's saying. And with that said, it says a lot about Trumpers, and their mindset. You know, you know, I was surprised to find that this card was available on Amazon right now.
What?
Multiple sellers too. Multiple sellers are selling it right now on Amazon. Matter of fact, this is where I got this picture from. This was on Amazon. It's a
Shut
picture of a
up.
black man holding a white privilege card. I was like shocked. I'm like, really? So they're using a yeah, I'm gonna assume that the guy it's stock photo and they just put the white privilege card on some stock photo. That's what I'm assuming. Assume it's not a black man who actually posed with the card. All right. But anyway, yeah, I would go into how awful this is and if it be me or if it was me argument, what they would have done. But we know this is bullshit. I just want to make sure people are aware that this is real. This is the type of shit that we've been dealing with for years. Um, and if you even just listen to like the gangster rap from the '90s, right? And the '90s, the gangster rap they tried to ban, you know,
Mhm.
they've always talked about these good old boys club and racism that they've been going on and dealing with. It's all in there. It was the stories. Um, anyway, so I don't know. I think as much as people think that this was gone, racism was gone, we're just finding out every day, especially post Trump era, that this 2020 world that we thought was all woke and everything, it's just the opposite. You know, police officers are actually just putting it all out there now. I don't give a shit. I don't know. Jacqueline Robinson says, "I'm sorry, but she's an a-hole. There is nothing funny about this. It's interesting how she and her ilk back the blue until they are storming our Capitol and attacking Capitol Police and MPD officers."
Oh, thank you, Jacqueline.
I mean,
Hmm.
I would be embarrassed to show the card.
Right?
I would be embarrassed. I mean,
Man, and I wouldn't even jokingly have anything like this to pull on anyone because I don't know if one of my friends pulls out a white privilege card, they're about to get smacked, or they're maybe going to get smacked because it's just not funny.
you know what? I think I did make a point about the Amazon, but I didn't look. But I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon has the black card, like able to buy because we joke about it. We're going to revoke your black card because I wouldn't be surprised if there's the black card on Amazon. But anyway, I was just shocked by this story. So
Mm.
yeah. So all right, is this truth? Wait a minute. We have one more comment before we go. Oh yeah. So Jose says white privilege card. What the fuck? This is so absurd. It hurts me. And she agreed with her being a huge a-hole. All right, guys.
What
Is
saddens
this?
me is
Go ahead.
it's available on Amazon.ca also. So there's white privilege card, but there's the official race card also that you
The
can
race
purchase.
card. The oh god. I guess we can't complain that they actually have it out there. Uh,
That's
anyway,
so bad.
it's people are people though. People are people. All
Yep.
right. So
Everyone wants to make a buck.
is this truth,
Truth, lies,
lies, or
shenanigans.
shenanigans?
Shenanigans.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
Some shenanigans. I hope they do
Shenanigans.
investigate. I want to know all the details about the officer who let her go. I want to know more about him. Officer Bo, as she called him. All right, Dr. J, you're up next.
Truth, lies,
Yeah.
shenanigans.
So, this week the National uh, Major Baseball League um, had a ruling in which they have agreed to pay a very large sum of money to the minor league um, about um, to settle a federal class action lawsuit. It stems on the fact that the minor league players were not being compensated for having to attend summer training and things like that. Like apparently they only get compensated for um, playing the games and not all of the things that go along with playing the games. And the interesting thing though is about like this class action lawsuit, it settles and says that now teams can compensate these players. Doesn't mean that they have to. So there's still leagues that may not compensate these players, but it's like you're asking them to do this extra work, go into mandatory training, mandatory meetings, and yet you're not being compensated, which to me is kind of wild. I didn't know that that would even be exist. Like even in my job, like if we have a mandatory team meeting, everybody clocks in and gets paid to be there. So like how like in 2022, you're still forcing people to do things and not paying them. That just seems wild to me. Like, what are your thoughts?
I'm curious. So were um are they paid annually or are they paid per game?
Now that part I'm not particularly. I know you get a salary, and I think it's based per game. Um,
Or maybe it's
but
for a certain number of months or maybe something like that.
yeah, but it's. I mean, it's mostly like around like you actually playing the actual game. But the spring training that they have to do and those things, they're not being compensated for, but it's mandatory that they have to be there. And I mean, we're talking minor league, so they're not getting these multi-million-dollar contracts like the
Mm.
major league players are getting. Most of them probably still have their regular full-time jobs and kind of doing this on the side, with the hopes of maybe moving up to the majors.
Hmm.
And it's like, it's one thing, I mean, for the major league players, they get compensated millions upon millions of dollars, and all they have to do is play this game. The
Right.
minor league players aren't the same way. I guess it's akin to sort of the NCAA and how, those kids don't get paid, but they have to do all this work.
I
And
don't
it's,
know.
and like I said, all the lawsuit does is that it clears the leagues, the organizations that now they can pay them, but they still don't have to.
Wow. I don't know that I don't know. I feel like minor leagues is an opportunity, right? And you can choose to take the opportunity, you can choose not to. Now, if there's no requirement to do, well, I guess there's requirements to do spring training, but I remember when I was in management, um, I get paid 45 hours a week. I'd work sometimes 100 hours a week, right? I get paid 45 hours. That's all I'd get paid. No matter what, no matter if I worked, 50, 60, 70 hours, still 45 hours a week. I was not getting paid for those extra hours of work that I was putting in. And that's legal as far as labor law. is Now, these are contractual things with minor leaguers, so it's not like they fit under the same labor laws and same labor law requirements. So I don't know. I don't know that if you look at the minor leagues as an opportunity to get to the major leagues to make the big money, I say I'm not really I'm not against it. I'm not against them just paying them for the games they played. I'm not against them. I may be against, I may not like the fact that they have to do certain things that they're not being paid for, or being required to. But in many cases, if you don't do those things, you just don't have that opportunity. So I don't know. It's a catch 22
Hmm.
that I'm on the fence about. So probably
Just because something is lawful, contractual, doesn't make it right. Um, and the MLB is profitable. When I was looking into this, I just started looking at a couple of the franchises, and I mean, on average, they're profiting 100 million to 600 million. So, I mean, that's not a bad profit margin. So, Major League Baseball franchises are profitable. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them tell you otherwise. So, why not trickle some of that money down so that you can start really supporting your up and comers? So, if you have the money to invest in minor league players, and if you're showing profits of 100 million, Neil, trickle that down. I mean, just a little bit of it is peanuts. They need the minor leagues for relief players. They need the minor leagues to develop up and coming talent. So if you remove
mm,
financial barriers and hurdles, you can nurture the talent and the players, and you can foster player loyalty. When you do these things, great things can happen. It just creates a good formula for everyone all around. And and I can appreciate what you're saying, Neo. I mean, keep them lean, keep them hungry. Nobody gets free ride. But if they're not being compensated in a reasonable fashion, to if you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and this is your dream, your opportunity, I think that the MLB has the money to at least help these players along the way because they're the ones that benefit from that final product anyway. Just makes no sense. It's an investment.
I will say real quick. I will say that I just looked up the minor league baseball player salary, how much they get paid. This is on sportingnews.com. It says salaries of minor league baseball players in the U.S. range from, I'm sorry, this is comparably.com, comparable salaries. A minor league baseball players in the U.S. range from 19,910 to 187,200 with a median salary of 44,000 a year. Hmm. I don't know that,
I
I
think
mean,
that it kind of goes
part-time salary
back
is
a
not
little
that
bit
bad.
to like the beast of burden that we talked about. Like the amount of conditioning and work that goes into being a top-notch player in any sport on any level is huge. And the damage that happens to these athletes' bodies that happens long after they've finished the sport.
Yeah.
Baseball players, rotator cuffs,
Injuries.
ACL injuries.
Mhm.
These things
Hmm.
can end your career before it even starts. And so, really, when we talk about compensation, like, can you pay somebody enough? And this is how I feel across the board with all of the sports and dealing with like having people close to me that have played professional sports. Um, the toll that it takes on your body, is there truly any money compensation for that? Because after you finish playing, you're the one still in pain from the arthritis or the old injuries and things like that. And
Yep.
so it's like, why can't you get, I guess, get as much compensation as possible because you are beating your body up to do this.
But sports is is you get paid for performance. So like, how well a team is doing defines how well they'll be able to how much money they'll make. Because if you think about it, most of the revenue is probably coming from minor league ticket sales and whatever concession sales and all of that stuff. So if your team's not doing well, you may end up being an undercompensated minor league player. So I mean, isn't it to some degree, you just gotta play better. I mean, you
And
That
that's
to
where
get
you need
paid
to have
more.
profit sharing. You need to have profit sharing rules across the board to ensure that it is an equal playing field across the
Get those
entire
ticket
league.
sales
I
up. It's the
don't.
same thing with WNBA. I mean, I understand that they want to be paid the same as NBA, but they also don't have the same viewership and the same. I mean, they've
But
got it.
WNBA But most WNBA games are actually a better caliber than the NBA games.
I,
Have you seen them women? They are beasts.
some of them are, yes, some of them are, but on average,
So I mean, I think that you have like like yes, if you do well, you get paid well. But we're still talking about like it doesn't even matter. Even if you are on a poorly doing team, you still have to put in the work. There's still conditioning that happens. There's still injuries
Mhm.
that happen.
I mean, they're not
Regardless,
getting paid pennies though. I don't know.
But
nineteen
Neil,
thousand
if you're
dollars
making
a year.
Well,
20K a year,
19,000, that's like the worst player,
okay,
but
but if you're making 20K a
187,000 is
year
pretty good.
and you're trying, but if you're making 20K a year and you're trying, you're starting, you're breaking in, and now you're expected to work a full-time job, you're expected to do
Play
all of the
part-time.
conditioning. And so I understand that leading up to that point, because they start grooming players at a certain point, but
Yeah.
you know, during your young adult life, you're presumably living with mom and dad. So that's not really a big issue. But when you're out on your own, you need some kind of living wage. And if the player develops into something, this is a commodity, it's a resource for the team. So if the player develops into something good, they will reap the rewards. So why not throw $5 million towards player salaries in your minor leagues that can be distributed evenly and equally so that there's some kind of equity? Make sure everyone has a living wage. Again, it's that you develop that player loyalty, you develop a better sense of competition and fairness, hopefully less roids. Hopefully
All right.
less roids.
Comments online. Jacqueline Robinson says trainees and sometimes interns are compensated in other fields such as law and politics. Yes, they work for opportunities, but they're also paid for the time they're working. But they're also
Yeah.
paid inexpensively. I have two interns and they're getting paid. I don't want to say how much they're getting paid, but it's under 10 grand. So I mean, it's like, you know, they get paid cheaply because they're learning, they're trying to figure it out. So you pay and you get better. You pay for where you are, and then you get to the major leaguers, and that's why you can't compare because there's a talent difference.
Yeah, we're not telling that they need $1 million contracts, but
No.
you need something. You need some.
Maybe.
No, you need something.
Maybe they're a
That's the
little
thing.
underpaid.
Yeah,
Maybe
very.
they're a little. He said very. All right.
If I've had three rotator cuff surgeries and I'm still in the minors pitching for this team and they call me up when they need me, then shouldn't I be compensated to at least have a living wage because they're going to come to me when they need me? So
I
if I need to
say,
perform at
you don't
that
like the
level when they
pay, don't
need me,
sign the contract. That's what I say. All right. Is this truth, lies, shenanigans? I'm saying there's a little bit of truth in this. It's true. Some shenanigans too.
it's
I'm
some
going with
truth,
truth.
but
Shenani truth.
I think
Shenana truth.
yeah,
Shenana truth.
shenana truth. I
Shenana truth.
like that.
Shenana truth.
Shenana truth.
All right, great topics today, guys. Great topics. All right, let's close out with some fun into our little game show here. All right, today's game is in honor of our guest host and her pet tips of the week. We're going to do pet care trivia and see what we know about pets. I'll be playing along with you guys since I don't know the answers this time, but I think our resident veterinarian might have a slight advantage. So I will say.
only hope. I
I,
can only hope.
I'm going to say, Dr. J, if anything is incorrect here, you have to take it up with BuzzFeed because I didn't create the. So, as always, if you get the question right, you get a point. The person with the most points gets the final thought. All right, and we're going to start out with our lovely Dr. J. Dr. J, which of the following could you safely feed a dog? Almonds,
Honey.
grapes, garlics, or honey?
Honey.
You say honey. That is correct. Honey. All right. Robbie, is it safe for a dog to run with a stick in its mouth? Oh God.
Well, I'm going to say no.
So that is correct. No, there's a higher risk for pups to get impaled when they run with a stick than with a chew toy.
I have
That's
seen
why I
it.
don't get my granddaughter
You've
scissors
seen it.
to run with.
You
I
said you.
have seen it. Yes.
Wow. Okay, good to know. My dogs don't like sticks, which is good. Well, one of them likes sticks, but he just likes chewing them.
Yeah.
All right, this is for me. Is it better to keep a full bowl of food out or to regulate the dog's food intake? Only because I like to keep a full bowl of food out, but my veterinarian has told me that I need to regulate my dog's food intake. So I'm going to say regulate the amount of food they eat. And that is
Correct.
correct. Regulate the amount of food they eat. Often dogs tend to overeat. If they always have food out, chances are they'll always take advantage of it. Okay, my dog's a little.
Opportunistic feeders.
One of my dogs is a little fat. One of them's really skinny. One. All right. All right. This is for Dr. J. About how often should you give your dog a bath? Every day, about once a week, about once a month, or about once a year?
About once a month.
Once a month. Let's see if BuzzFeed agrees with you. That is correct. Once a month, unless you see that they're noticeably dirty or washing that much is drying out their skin. All right,
Oh,
cool. Yeah, we do about once a month, so we're right on track. All right. Robbie, how often should you give your dog a bone? Daily to promote
knick knack,
stimulation,
paddywhack.
once a month to strengthen their jaws, only once a year because they're very high in sodium, or never because they can injure their mouth.
Hmm. I'll say once a month to strengthen their jaws.
That is
And
incorrect.
never, never. I know never chicken
Never.
bones.
I knew
Chicken
never
bone.
chicken bones too. Uh,
No. No.
Not only can they
Never
injure the
bones.
mouth, but bones can also get stuck in the digestive tract. So,
And get stuck on their jaws. I've seen
okay,
that.
wow. I used to give my dogs bones like from the store, and they
Yeah,
loved
like
them.
once a year, I would get
Yeah.
them like at Christmas. Like, here's your treat. Here's a great big bone, but they
But my
didn't
current
show that much
veterinarian
interest
told
on
me
them.
not.
Yes, someone I know has told me I shouldn't. Also, a BuzzFeed quiz.
All right. So this is me. Which of the following is not a common vaccine for dogs to get? Kennel cough, Bordetella, FIV, or rabies? So it's either kennel cough or FIV. I don't know what FIV is. So I want to pick FIV because I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna go with kennel cough. That is
Wrong.
Would have trusted
You
your
were
gut.
not listening to me when I did my pet tips. I mentioned 3 of those
oh,
vaccines.
feline immunodeficiency virus. Oh, you did say that one. I don't know what FIV stands for.
It's fine
I
AIDS,
know,
dude.
but I mentioned the other
You said.
3.
All right, all right. So I was wrong. I wasn't paying attention. All right. What did I? All right. So what is the difference? This is for Dr. J. Dr. J, you're in the lead. This is our last round. So this is actually for the win, Dr. J. What is the difference between spaying and neutering? If you don't know this,
She
I
knows
can't. I
this.
can't take my dogs to you. Spaying removes the ovaries, while neutering removes the testicles. Spaying is a procedure done on cats, while neutering is a procedure done on dogs. Neutering removes the ovaries, while spaying removes the testicles. Neutering is a procedure done on cats, while neutering is a procedure done on dogs.
All right, this I could take up the answer with BuzzFeed. The correct answer is not there. But for BuzzFeed, is spaying removes the ovaries while neutering removes the testicles.
Okay.
Number 3.
That is correct according to BuzzFeed. Spaying
Yeah.
removes ovaries while neutering removes the testicles. Getting pets spayed better protects them against breast and uterine cancer, while getting them neutered protects them against testicular and prostate cancer. Okay, so what did they get wrong though?
You can use neutering interchangeably for male and female.
Oh,
Huh?
interesting.
Fair.
Okay. Oh, and can you actually teach a old dog new tricks?
Yes, you can. No, yes, you can.
Oh, here's a question I want you to answer. So, which of the following colors can dogs see best? Red, yellow, or green?
Oh.
Me or Dr. J?
I'm asking Dr. J.
I think it's gonna be red.
And let's see.
I think it's yellow.
Yay! That's you got it wrong. All right, dogs don't see in black and white. Contrary to popular belief, they have 2 cones compared to the average 3 that humans have, meaning they can see yellow and blue pretty well, but have a harder time differentiating from other shades. But you still win the game, Dr. J. Good job, Dr. J.
My license on the line.
Good job, buddy. Good job.
You get the final thought for the show. But before we close out, we got to get in our shout outs. All right, let's start with Robbie.
Be sun safe. Be heat safe. Wear your sunscreen, wear a hat, hydrate. Don't leave your kids or your pets in the car. Don't walk your pets on hot sidewalks like Dr. J was letting us know. Just stay hydrated. Have fun.
All right. Shout outs, Dr. J.
I'd like to send a shout out to all the parents who are going through summer vacation. The end is nigh.
Summer vacation. All right. My shout out goes to Maria Cosme. She's been a guest host on our show, and she hosts the Pain to Power podcast on YouTube. She's streaming tonight at 9 p.m. Just search Brown Girl Interrupting on YouTube to find her channel. You can sign up for a reminder. And that is officially all of the time we have for today's show. I'd like to thank you for joining us. We hope that you maybe learned something new, gained a new perspective, and got some things off your chest. We will be back live next Sunday. We're going to try a new time, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to also test out streaming Saturdays mornings in August. So check us out and let us know what times you'd prefer to see our beautiful faces. Looks like our winner for the final thought of the show would be Dr. J. Close us out, Dr. J.
All right, so I think that the biggest thing is going to be kind to yourself. There's a lot going on, and give yourself grace and allow yourself, to make mistakes. And also be kind to the animal world, because we work in tandem with them. If they're not healthy, we won't be healthy. So, extend kindness to everything.
And beasts of burden. I'm going to treat my dog like a beast of burden and get him a wagon.
There are competitions for dog pulls.
I need to find one that's cheap. Everyone I find is like $500-$600.
Yeah, but there are dog pull competitions.
Get yourself a radio flyer.
I was going to try to fit one, but even that's more complicated. And the problem is it rolls up on their legs and stuff like that. You got to get one that's fitted right. Anyway, thank you, Robbie. And special thank you to our guest host today, Dr. Robin Johnson, a.k.a. Dr. J. But most importantly, thank you for watching and listening to our shenanigans each and every week. We will see you next time. No after show today. See you guys later.